In response to Donald Trump announcing that he'd be releasing the JFK files, please focus on that and not the other stuff. The grandson of JFK, Jack Schlossberg, has been out publicly speaking out against some of the coverage of these files, of the narrative, and then Trump maybe using it to get people's eye off of the ball. And then one of the points that I'll show you that he makes is, hey, I get there's a lot of focus on the assassination. Could we also focus on his life and legacy? Could we also have some takeaways? Like, he would be disgusted at what Trump is now doing? Anybody? So before showing you Jack Schlossberg's response, I'll talk a little bit about, there's tens of thousands of documents, so it's taking a while to process through for outlets. But what we've learned thus far, and it's kind of what you'd expect, but some interesting things. Here's Trump making this announcement, looking very bizarre, physically, visually bizarre. If you appreciate the show, please do click the subscribe button.
But while we're here, I thought it would be appropriate. We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this, and I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow. We have a tremendous amount of paper. You've got a lot of reading. I don't believe we're going to redact anything. I said, just don't redact. You can't redact. But we're going to be releasing the JFK files, and that would be tomorrow. Do you have anything else to add to that, Carolyn? So that's a big announcement. They've been waiting for that for decades. Then I said during the campaign I'd do it, and I'm a man of my word. So tomorrow you have the JFK files. What time will they be released?
So, anywho, no mention of Epstein, but I don't know. But that did end up happening. At least it's happening in tranches. And ABC News reports the National Archives on Tuesday released thousands of pages of declassified records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. The records were posted to the National Archives website, and as Trump said, it's a lot of papers. But the newly declassified version of these documents also shed light on granular details of mid-20th century espionage that the CIA had fiercely fought to keep secret. Most of what the government released tonight's not new. In fact, much of what has attracted attention on social media and news reports has long been in public domain, except for minor redactions, such as blacking out of personally identifiable information of CIA sources or employees, names, addresses, which have now been disclosed, which, again, sometimes people act like nothing should stay private. And there's stuff that maybe there's no need to make public. And so some of this I just see as just, but obviously nothing was learned thus far from the processing of the documents that conclusively changes the original fundamental understanding of the assassination itself. That's expected. My stance on this is, if something were there to be found, if a smoking gun, conclusive evidence that changes our understanding completely of what took place were there over the last 60 years, it would have gotten out somehow, okay? And then, by the way, take the wildest conspiracy theory. Have you never wondered, let's say that the wildest conspiracy theory were true. You think they'd write it down? You think they jotted that down? We done it? You think they did that? You think even if it was the craziest thing you could imagine? No, I do wonder sometimes, have you ever thought that it was what it was? I don't know. I feel like we never considered that maybe it just was what it was. But in the documents, there is stuff that we've already sort of known, but a lot of information about the U.S. government's methods, as was mentioned, and the CIA, just a lot of information about that era in history, that period of time. So then we're learning about different espionage and who we were tapping and what we want to do with Castro. And we crafted plans, considerations to back an assassination of Castro. An interesting tidbit, one that may have already been out there, but not surprising given the history and the Bay of Pigs and all that was going on during that point in time. The fact that there was concern around Oswald before the assassination, keeping tabs on him because of his presence in USSR, Cuba, all of this is important because was there a failure? Could it have been prevented? All that. But it's so long ago that I think what we're about to get to here with Jack Schlossberg of him saying, there's other things we could use this time for, I do think is a reasonable takeaway. But let's just go ahead and get to that. He posted this: hey, all news networks, CNN, MSNBC, whatever, you don't need to cover the fake JFK document story, especially when there's so much real news. And then he also posted this video.
You're better than this. This is so fucking stupid. There's so much actual news going on. Why are you covering this? At least report that something happened. I love you, Harry Anton. You're really smart. Why are you guys covering this? I love you, Aaron Burnett. You're really smart. Why are you covering this? Why are you covering this? Stop. This is why this shit takes hold, because you guys fucking cover it over and over and over.
Yeah, it's funny on this whole thing of what did something else happen? I care in the sense that I care for the tragedy that it was, the moment in history that it was. But in terms of when people try to get me to engage or talk about or think about different theories, I can't get myself to care. I just can't. I've tried. Can't do it because of what I previously referenced. I do have the stance. Maybe I get proven wrong someday. Who knows? But we'd know, given just how things are leaky, eeky, weaky. Jack also posted, President Trump's obsessed with my grandfather, but not his life or what he achieved in it. No, just like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Trump is only interested in JFK's carcass. These men are stealing history from present and future generations. By appropriating the past for their criminal agenda, they normalize themselves in the minds of those without living memory. Again, this is his grandson. I'm one person with a social media account. All I can do, any citizen, is speak my mind. The rest will come later, winning after we build strength. For now, if you see something, say something. JFK drafted the Civil Rights Act. Trump made DEI illegal. JFK stared down Russia and did not blink. Trump is Russia's closest ally. JFK sent a man to the moon. Trump gave Elon the keys to Air Force One. JFK created USAID. Trump eliminated it. JFK fought fascism and communism. Trump selling us out to tech warlords at home and abroad. JFK stood behind unions and labor, demanding health care, higher pay. Trump is stripping working families from life-saving care, financial support. JFK celebrated the arts and culture. Trump attacks artists' identities, took over the Kennedy Center just to empty it out and pave it gold. A pretty powerful message there. If we're going to talk about JFK, can we also talk about how the principles, there's more to his story than just the fact that he was assassinated. And I think it's a profound thing coming from his grandson to emphasize that. And then on a more lighthearted note, he posted as a part of this series of posts, what the JFK files say about me is not true. I'm straight. And to understand the lore here, how do I explain? How do I explain for our folks who don't know the Jack Schlossberg lore? So he is straight, but sometimes, when pieces come out like this, there's certain people and certain communities who would really love him to be of a different sexual orientation. Not me. No. And so there's sort of that, whenever you're a public figure and you're, good looking, then there's a lot of people being like, oh, come on, I wish they were gay. And that's a little bit of what's being referenced there, but a funny bit of lightheartedness. Interestingly, conservative Ben Shapiro had kind of a similar take.
Sort of conspiracy theorizing that's become incredibly popular on the right these days. It was popular on the left, and now it's become increasingly popular on the right. The kind of, let's just ask questions. We'll ask, who really killed JFK? Wink, wink, nod, nod. And then you're like, well, do you have any evidence of the thing that you are presupposing? Well, no, I'm not making any accusations. I just know I don't believe the story that I'm being told. I know not to trust the authorities. You're like, well, that's fine, but do you have any evidence? Evidence, not just supposition. I said, well, you're part of it, aren't you? You're part of it. The reason that you're so defensive about all this is, I don't care who killed JFK. I mean, I do, because it's really interesting, but I noticed that the calendar says 2025 and he was killed in 1963. And so my opinion about who killed JFK has about as much relevance as who killed William McKinley, or James Garfield, which is to say, not an enormous amount.
What's interesting? He's constantly participating in the very critical thinking damaging. Bad time to use horrible grammar as I just did. He also undermines critical thinking in much of his content. But He's correct there. It's not that it's wrong to wonder about things. It's that people often choose their conclusion first and then are upset with you when you won't buy into it until you see evidence, right? And there's a lot of that, not just with this, but with so many, sort of the Tucker Carlson model of, well, what was the real reason that Joe Biden dropped off the ticket? Was it because he thought that Kamala Harris could become president and then murder every single conservative, every single white man in America? Is that really why Joe Biden dropped? Did Joe Biden really do it because he wanted an entire population of little Tucker Carlsons to be murdered? Is that really? I don't know. I'm just asking questions, but it's something to think about, right? That whole thing, that was obviously an extreme example, is the model now, because it's the coward's content, right? Whenever I have to I choose to assert something on the show, it comes with a certain level of responsibility that I can back it up. But if I'm just asking questions and just throwing things out there, then I'm not really responsible for anything I'm saying. And that's what they do. And it is so intriguing to people because people like sort of pardon the term, intellectual masturbation, okay, of thinking of funky things, right? Thinking of what if Kamala Harris was really a robot that was designed by the deep state, and that's why that one time her head moved like this. Like, that's interesting. It's stimulating. And telling people that sometimes our world, as interesting as it is, doesn't need to be made more interesting through extra layers of theories. Or that maybe the world is wildly complicated and not as simple as there's one deep state cabal controlling everything and they're the bad guys and you're the good guys. Maybe it's a little bit more complicated than that. That's not as sexy as just, well, I ask questions and I stimulate you. I caress your mind. And so hopefully that message from Ben Shapiro is received well by his audience, but I'm sure that it won't be. Share your thoughts in the comments. Support the show. Get the members only bonus show by clicking that join button below.